Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm talking to you about 10 things that you don't need in your sewing room. So I know that if you have a sewing room, you're very privileged. Not everyone has that. But even if you have a little corner in your lounge, this can apply to then. It's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, so let's have a little bit of fun with it. Do you like my top? I keep getting free hoodies and t-shirts. My soon-to-be ex-husband works in an apparel place at the moment. These are prints that didn't work out, so they just give them to staff, but there's nothing wrong with it. So I feel really cozy in this one today. So the first thing that we do not need in our sewing room is people. Am I right? Am I right? Nothing more distracting or annoying. If you're in your room sewing, you're in the zone, your head is there, you're not thinking about anything else apart from the seam that you're sewing. And someone, it might be your husband, it might be your partner, it might be your child, it might be your grandchild. Someone, Nan, or Grandma, or Mum, can you do this? Can you do this? Mum, can you do it? No. We do not need people in our sewing room distracting us. So I hope your sewing room has a door on it. And if it is in the corner of the room, I hope you're able to sew when no one else is home, because that is the dream, is it not? So the next thing you don't need in your sewing room is bad lighting. If you are in your sewing room and you have bad lighting in there, maybe you only have a small window or no window at all, you are not going to get natural light in there that you need to sew a good garment. So in the previous video, I talked about things that make your garments look subpar, and that is going to be one of them. I didn't talk about that in that video, but bad lighting is going to increase the likelihood that you are going to make mistakes, silly, stupid mistakes. So you want really good lighting. So a few things you can do. You can get a brighter overhead bulb if you're able to. If you have a window in your room, then you want to put your sewing machine under the window, and that's going to give you all the natural light, certainly in the daytime. Sorry if I'm shifting about, I've got a coccyx issue, so I have to move about. If you're a nighttime sewer, you want to get one of those sticky LED lights that you can just stick in the throat area of your machine, and that's going to really brighten up the area that you're sewing under. But you also can get table lamps, you can get standalone lamps that sort of hang over you. That's always a really good option. If you've got a big long mirror in your room where you like to wear your finished garments and look to see how they're fitting and that, you're going to need good light in there in order to be able to see any mistakes, any things that need adapting. So I would do that. Also, if you take photos for social media in your room, you're really going to want good lighting, and you want daytime lighting, not warm glow lighting. I actually have warm glow now, but for many years I wouldn't use warm glow. And I would suggest, if you can get the Philips light bulbs that have got all the different range of colours, that's perfect, because then when you want to take a photo, you can have a daylight bulb. If you want to just sew and enjoy yourself in the evening, maybe you'll have more of a warm glow. So the next thing you do not want in your sewing room is clutter. Now this is kind of the whole point of this video, is that when we have sewing rooms, we just put all our stuff in there and shut the door behind us. No one goes in there, no one sees it. Well, we see it, we see that clutter, and that can have a really bad psychological effect on our mental health. So especially if you are spending a lot of time in your sewing room, it's going to impact you significantly. Maybe you're someone who likes to work in chaos and that works for you, in which case this point isn't for you. But if you're someone who gets overwhelmed with all the mess, all the supplies you've got everywhere, you've got no storage, then this is for you. Take a day, go through your sewing room and declutter. Believe me, you will thank me later. I went through this whole decluttering process a couple of years ago, and it was the best thing that I've ever done. This room we're in now was complete chaos. It had so many supplies, so much fabric, so many tools. you've seen my videos where I've talked about decluttering all of those things, and it has revolutionised my home. And I'm not sewing at the moment, so I can't really speak to that. But I know that when I get my sewing machine out, and I'm probably going to be moving imminently, so it's not going to be just yet. As soon as I've moved, we'll be on it. As soon as I get my sewing machine out, I know it's going to be a much better experience for me. One of the reasons that I actually gave up sewing is that I got so overwhelmed with the mess. I've spoken about this before, but I came in here one day because I needed to film a video, like a demonstration video. And it was just chaos in here. I had like 3 or 4 tables in here and they were all covered in crap. Well, I thought I've got to tidy up first and then I can film. But because I have chronic fatigue syndrome, if I tidy up, I'm back to bed. There is no doing both. And I just thought, I'm overwhelming myself. I can't do this anymore. So I stepped back from sewing because of it. And you don't want to do that. It probably won't impact you in that exact same way because you don't film your videos or film any videos. But even so, you don't want to be in a position where you stop loving to sew because of the mess. Or even you might not see it as not loving sewing. It might just be that you avoid going in the room because it is such a mess. So I would say declutter your room, and then you won't, even if you are still a messy sewer, it won't seem so messy because there's less stuff around. And if you really don't want to get rid of stuff, find some storage solutions. The next thing that does not belong in your sewing room are WIPs. WIPs are works in progress. So this is projects that you've taken on, you've got bored with halfway, or you gave up for some reason halfway through, and they just sit there, over there, not being looked at, not being addressed, not being dealt with. More and more is getting added to that pile, and it's overwhelming, and it sits there giving you eye daggers saying, address me, deal with me, finish me. And you're like, no, I've got a new shiny project over here that I'm doing. And then that new shiny project ends up in that pile. If you've got any WIP piles, go through them. Either finish the garments that you're going to make, or take the garments apart so you can keep the fabric, or give them to someone else who can finish them, or just put them in the textile bin if you really don't want to do anything with them. But whatever you do, just get rid of them. I did this and I felt so much better. It felt like a weight was lifted off, because I had this tub with WIPs in it, and it probably had about 10 or 15 WIPs. And I just kept telling myself for years, oh, I'm going to finish those, I'm going to get round to it, and I never did. I was lying to myself. And when we start to lie to ourselves, we stop trusting ourselves, and it just doesn't feel good. And so once I got rid of them and the problem was not there anymore, I felt so much better. If you're enjoying this video, do hit that subscribe button, comment, like, do all the things. Let me know down below what doesn't belong in your sewing room, if you have a sewing room, and if you don't, what doesn't belong in the corner. We've got this, guys. We've got this. Let's get on to the next tip. So the next thing that doesn't belong in our sewing rooms is tools that we do not use. This is a kind of a vendetta I've got against unused tools, but we just don't need them. When I first started sewing, I wanted to use all the tools. I wanted to have all the tools, and I built up a hell of a collection, let me tell you. And did I use them? No, I didn't. I used maybe 5 to 10% of the tools that I had. And in the end, I was just like, they've got to go. They've got to go. They're taking up room. My home is not a storage unit. I want to sleep and live in my home and have it feel lovely to me and cosy. I do not want tools everywhere that I haven't used, I'm never going to use, and they're just going to whatever. So I got rid of them. I sent them to the charity shop or the thrift shop, and other people were able to make good use of them. So, well, I hope they were, because you know what it's like when they go to the charity shop, they could end up in the landfill. But it's such a specific thing, sewing tools, that hopefully someone who sews comes along and is like, I want some of that. If you want some inspiration for getting rid of the tools that you don't use, check out this video here where I talked about the tools that I don't need and the tools I love. But it really has to be tools that you use, not tools that I use. So go through and have an honest conversation with yourself about whether they are actually ever going to get used or not. Also, whether they're even necessary, because we like to buy tools that are not even necessary. So the next thing that does not belong in our sewing room is furniture that has just been dumped there because there's something wrong with it, or we don't want it, or we're going to get rid of it. It might just be that the furniture is inadequate for the use that you need. So you might have bought it originally, and then as you've developed as a sewer and made use of your room in a really good way, a piece of furniture there is not serving you anymore, and you've been thinking for a long time you've got to get rid of it, but you've never gotten around to it. Well, now is the time to do that. Most people who have a sewing room have quite a small room. It's going to be a compact room. As sewers, we need a lot of space because we need a table for our sewing machines, we need a table for cutting out, we need a full-length mirror, we need place for all our tools and storage. So if you've got furniture in your room that is just getting in the way, then you are going to feel much lighter and enjoy the process of sewing in that room if you do not have furniture pieces getting in the way. And also, if you've got furniture that is broken, either fix it or get rid of it. You don't need to be having an accident in your sewing room. You don't need to be having an accident in your sewing room, especially while you're sewing. Health and safety, guys. Health and safety in the sewing room. The next one is back to tools actually, and that is blunt tools. So we might have scissors, knives, cutters of some kind that are completely blunt, and we've just left them there. We haven't bought replacements, or maybe we have bought a replacement and we still haven't gotten rid of the original one. Now is your time to get rid of any blunt tools. I have one of those button holders that you put on your button and it cuts the fabric. Mine is completely blunt. I need to get rid of that and get a new one, or buy a stone and sharpen it again, which is the better option. The next thing that does not belong in your sewing room or your sewing space is a messy floor. So if you're anything like me, you are a messy sewer. Not all of us are. Some of us are really tidy sewers. Let me know which you are down below. But for me, I'm a messy sewer. It used to be when I was in my early stages of sewing, I did have my own sewing room at that point. And the floor, well, you could not see the floor at the end of a project. And there were pins, there were bits of fabric that had been cut off. There was whole twirls all over the floor, there's patterns, there's excess fabric, you name it, you could not see the floor. And then what I would have to do after a project is to go round and pick up all the pins, clean up everything, put the vacuum around. It was an extra step within the sewing process, so eventually I just stopped doing that. And then I'd walk in the room to do a new project and it was still a mess from the last project. So my advice to you is to sew as you move along through your project. So have a little bin on your table to put threads in when you cut them off. Have a place for your excess fabric. So if you've cut out your project, take 5 minutes to just fold up the fabric you didn't use and get rid of any scraps and put the fabric back where it belongs. And if you're doing this as you go through your project, you're not leaving a mess anywhere. If you get pins on the floor, get one of those magnetic dishes that will hoover them up. And then all you've got to do at the end of the project is really just whip round the vacuum if it's like carpet, or sweep if it's not carpet. I'm a much tidier sewer now than I was at the beginning. So the next thing that does not belong in your sewing room is unwanted noise, isn't it? Maybe this is a me thing because I have misophonia, which is where you get really annoyed by small noises or large noises, and it can really affect you neurologically. So if I'm in my sewing room and I'm sewing and I keep hearing noise, like maybe traffic outside, people shouting outside, maybe it's the other people in my household, got the TV up loud, or I can't hear myself think, I'm not going to enjoy my sewing process, and I'm going to get really, really annoyed and actually walk away from the sewing. And that's not what we want. That's not why we've got a sewing room, is it? So you want to make sure that you have no unwanted noise. Now, it could even be that you stay in your sewing room, but you make mistakes because you're stressed from the noise. Am I revealing myself too much here? You can put noise panels on the walls in your room if you so wish. That will absorb noise. You can put rugs down if you've got hard floors. That will absorb noise. If you have any kind of textiles or fabrics laying around, that will absorb noise as well. A door is really useful. Also, letting people know that you are sewing and you want some quiet time and to keep their voices down and keep the TV to a medium level. The next thing that's not welcome in our sewing room is a lack of storage. Yes, you heard me right. This goes back to the clutter issue, doesn't it? We've decluttered, we've gotten rid of what we're willing to get rid of, but we're not going too far with it. We've still got a lot of, I would call it clutter, you might call it tools and essential things to do your sewing with. So if you are still in a position where you have lots of stuff and nowhere to put it, then you need storage, and you don't have storage. And storage is what you need. Because even if you have a lot of stuff, you can be putting it behind doors. It's going to be better for your mental health. It's probably actually going to be similar to actually getting rid of the stuff. Because the main thing psychologically is that we don't want to see it. And also, if you're anything like me, if you've got storage solutions, you can order it and sort it out and do catalogues and, oh, my heaven, my heaven. You can do all that sort of thing. Or you might be the other way where you just shove it behind the door, close the door and hope for good luck. You might feel that you don't have room. You could get some storage put up on the walls. That'd be really good, like your kitchen cabinets, but in your sewing room. That could work really, really well because it's up high and it's not bothering you. You might even have spare furniture in other parts of the house that you could utilise for storage in here. And also, storage solutions in terms of your sewing doesn't have to be in the room. You could go and store your sewing stuff elsewhere in the house, but that kind of defeats the object of having a sewing room. You've got to be the decision maker here. You've got to decide what works for you, what doesn't work for you. These are just generic ideas for you to think about because you can just make up your own mind, basically, and have a room that works really, really well for you and is going to make your sewing journey really enjoyable and make you want to come back and do more and more. So I'm going to leave it here. Thank you for listening right till the end. If you have, do hit like, comment, subscribe. Watch this video that I did last week talking about how to stop your garments looking subpar and to have a really professional finish. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.